The Indiana Fever just dropped a bombshell. For players, Sidney Carlson, Odyssey Sims, Brienne January, and Bree Hall are out, gone, released into free agency like it's just another day at the office. But it's not, because this move didn't just shuffle the roster. It cracked the foundation of a team that was supposed to be building something. And now, the clock is ticking. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. The pressure is mounting. The Fever's plans, or lack of them, are under a microscope. And head coach Stephanie White, she's front and center in the storm. Let's start with what actually happened. For players, all out the door. Carlson, Sims January, Hall, veterans, voices, locker room glue, and in some cases, rising talent, all released in one swing. Their contract expired, and just like that, they're unrestricted free agents. They can go anywhere. And Indiana doesn't look like they have a plan to replace them. The timing couldn't be worse. We're in the middle of one of the most critical off-seasons in Fever history. You got Caitlin Clark, your golden ticket, your franchise changer, fresh off her rookie campaign. You've got Aaliyah Boston, dominant in the post, and already a cornerstone piece. You've got a fan base that's finally engaged again, one of the most loyal markets in the league, starting to believe there's a real path forward. And now, chaos. Because this isn't just about 4 names on a spreadsheet. This is about chemistry, depth, defense, veteran leadership, the stuff that doesn't get headlines but wins games. And more importantly, this is about protecting Caitlin Clark. That's what makes this sting so much. The whole narrative around Clark, rightfully so, has been that she needs support. She needs a team around her that can take hits, hold the line, and give her the space to play her game without getting bulldozed every other night. But right now, that support system is crumbling. Sidney Carlson brought energy and edge. She might not have been your high scorer, but she was a floor general with experience. Exactly what you want coming off the bench in tight games. Gone. Odyssey Sims? Crafty, tough, and fearless. The kind of player who doesn't back down, even when the game gets ugly. Gone. Brienne January? Defensive anchor. Locker room leader. Veteran presence with postseason pedigree. Gone. And Bree Hall, a young piece who was just starting to find rhythm? Gone too. This isn't trimming the fat. This is ripping out the entire second unit, and doing it with no clear replacements in sight. Now, add in the current state of the league. Labor negotiations are freezing free agency. Trades are being discussed, but nothing's moving. Teams are stuck in limbo. And for Indiana, that's a nightmare. Because right now they need to act fast. But their hands are tied. You can't sign replacements. You can't finalize trade packages. You can't even guarantee that players you want will still be available when the freeze lifts. So what are we doing here? We're left with rumors, whispers, and speculation that only makes the situation more volatile. One of the biggest storylines? Trade talks around Kelsey Mitchell. Yes, Kelsey Mitchell. One of the few consistent scorers this team has. One of the only players who can create her own shot when things fall apart. And the idea that she might be on the block right now, while the team is bleeding veteran leadership. That's not strategy. That's panic. Let's be real. You do not trade Kelsey Mitchell unless you've got a rock-solid return lined up. Not in this moment. Not when your depth is evaporating and your top draft picks are still learning the league. You don't deal away one of your only reliable scoring threats while also letting 4 players walk. Unless there's a plan. But that's the issue. Nobody can see one. Right now, it feels like the Fever throwing pieces in the air and hoping something lands. Are they rebuilding? Are they restructuring? Are they tanking veterans to open cap space for long-term moves? Or are they reacting emotionally, cutting ties to players without first securing replacements? The truth might be somewhere in the middle, but the optics? They're terrible. And then there's Stephanie White. This is her moment of accountability. Because when the roster collapses like this, and the franchise cornerstone is staring down the barrel of a sophomore season without reliable veteran backup, people want answers. White has confirmed the releases. She's acknowledged the decisions. But what she hasn't done is provide clarity. There's no public roadmap, no statement of purpose, just a vague, uncomfortable silence that makes fans question whether this team knows what it's doing. You can't build a contender around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston by guesswork. And the idea that we're entering the next season with this much uncertainty, when expectations are higher than they've been in a decade, is reckless. Let's break down what's really at stake. Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie. She's a generational player, the kind that changes the trajectory of a franchise. And if the Fever fumble this window, this golden opportunity to build a competitive roster, while Clark is still on a rookie contract, they won't just be bad. They'll be remembered for wasting one of the most valuable assets in league history. Same goes for Aaliyah Boston. She's dominant, efficient, team first. You don't get back-to-back young stars like this often. You have to build around them, not ask them to carry a team that's been gutted for no good reason. So what's the plan? Is it to go all in on youth? To tank the bench, open up cap space, and hope they can land more long-term pieces over the next 2 seasons? Is it to push for a major trade, maybe even for a big-name veteran? To pair with Clark in Boston? Is it a short-term gamble, hoping the free agency freeze ends quickly and they can jump back into the market before the dust settles? Because if it's none of those things, and the Fever are just cutting players to cut players, then we got a real problem. No depth, no plan, and no protection for the players that matter most. And let's not forget, this is a franchise that has just started to rebuild its reputation. They were bottom tier for years. Fans stopped showing up. National media ignored them. And now, with Clark bringing in record attendance in Boston, anchoring the front court, the energy has finally shifted. But that momentum is fragile. You make the wrong decisions now, you lose that goodwill. Fast. So Indiana's front office needs to step up. And Stephanie White? She needs to lead. No more vague press releases. No more silence. The fans deserve transparency. The players deserve support. And the league deserves better than watching another team implode while sitting on generational talent. This offseason isn't about tinkering. It's about survival. You lose Caitlin's trust, you lose everything. You let Boston feel isolated, you've wasted her prime. You keep bleeding veteran leadership. Without bringing in proven replacements, you're inviting chaos. And chaos doesn't win championships. It doesn't even make the playoffs. So now it's all eyes on Indiana. Will they course correct and use this free agency period, once the freeze lifts, to build a roster that actually makes sense? Will they reinforce the foundation they've spent 2 years trying to lay? Or will they keep swinging at shadows, hoping the next move works out better than the last? This is the pivot point. No more excuses. No more short-term damage disguised as long-term strategy. All right, let's go deeper, because what's happened with the Indiana Fever right now isn't just a routine roster reset. It's the kind of offseason that reveals everything about a franchise's identity, or lack thereof. You can't release 4 players, for in one sweep, during a labor freeze, while sitting on unresolved trade rumors, without signaling one thing loud and clear: the house is not in order. And the real problem? This isn't just a team in transition. This is a team in conflict. A team that says it's building, but acts like it's scrambling. There's a gap between what the Fever are presenting to the public. We're building a contender around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, and the reality on the floor, which is a fractured rotation, inconsistent leadership, and now a gutted bench. Let's talk about bench production. Because every superstar in this league, past and present, has needed a bench they can lean on, not just for minutes, but for momentum. When a starter sits, the second unit sets the tone. They're the reason a 6-point lead doesn't evaporate. They're the reason a 15-point deficit becomes manageable. So when you lose multiple bench anchors in one swoop without any concrete replacements lined up, it isn't just a gamble. It's an identity crisis. Are the Fever focused on development? Then why cut Bree Hall, a player who was just beginning to show flashes of long-term potential? Are they focused on defense? Then why release Bree in January, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league? Are they focused on experience? Then explain why Odyssey Sims and Sydney Carlson, both proven vets who've seen playoff minutes and provided leadership, are now gone. The Fever are making moves that don't reflect any consistent philosophy. And that's the most dangerous thing in professional sports. Not being bad, but being unclear. Because when your direction is unclear, players don't trust you. Fans don't believe you. And other teams, they start circling like sharks, waiting to pick off your talent when everything collapses. This is where coaching matters. Stephanie White has a title. She's got the press conferences. She's doing the interviews. But when the locker room starts to unravel, when talent starts walking out the door, and when the fan base starts to spiral into doubt, leadership has to show up, not in vague statements, not in "we're evaluating our options" media lines, in decisive action. You let 4 players go? Fine. Then where's the follow-up? Where's the plan? Where's the transparency? Because right now, what fans are seeing is a coaching staff and front office that keeps asking them to trust the process without showing them what that process is. And that's how loyalty starts to fray. Speaking of fraying, let's talk about player relations. Because Caitlin Clark might not be vocal in public, but don't think for a second she's not watching all of this unfold. She sees who's leaving. She sees the trade rumors about Kelsey Mitchell. She knows exactly how little protection is left around her heading into a new season, and she's smart enough to understand what that means. Clark didn't sign up for chaos. She came to Indiana to win, to build. She passed on bigger markets, brighter lights, and larger endorsement deals because she believed in the vision the Fever sold her. And right now, that vision is starting to look extremely blurry. You know what else Clark sees? The defensive holes that are opening, the lack of physicality in the front court depth, the absence of veteran floor generals, the burden that's slowly creeping back onto her shoulders when what she needs is support. This team was supposed to be setting her up to thrive, not making her do it all herself. Then there's Aaliyah Boston, who's already put in her rookie dues and has done everything asked of her. She didn't come into the league to be part of a rotating cast of experiments. She's not a development piece. She's a foundation, and foundations need structure. So when you lose the kind of structure veterans like Sims, Carlson, and January bring, and you don't immediately reinforce that with proven replacements, you're not building. You're setting your stars up to fail. The other layer here is the emotional toll this kind of shakeup causes. Because it's not just about stats. It's about culture. These women live together, travel together, fight together on the court. When you pull 4 players out of that environment without warning, you're not just changing rotations. You're impacting relationships. You're shaking up trust. And if the coaching staff hasn't communicated the why behind those moves, you've created a locker room full of players wondering who's next. That's not cohesion. That's instability. Let's also not overlook the bigger league dynamics. The WNBA is in a moment of explosive growth. Expansion is on the horizon. Viewership is an all-time high. Player mobility is rising. And for a team like the Indiana Fever, finally back in the spotlight after years of irrelevance, the stakes are higher than ever. There is no longer room for half measures. You either commit to building a real contender, or you slide right back into mediocrity, and this time, under the harsh glare of national attention. So what do the Fever need to do right now? They need to start acting like a modern franchise, not a relic. That means laying out a real free agency plan now. Even if the freeze is still on, they should be communicating with agents, mapping out cap space, and preparing offers for when the window reopens, because other teams will be ready. And if Indiana waits, they'll miss their chance. Again, they need to shut down the Kelsey Mitchell trade rumors unless they have a clear upgrade coming in return. Mitchell is one of the only stable, elite scorers on the roster. Moving her without a plan is suicide. They need to lock in depth at the guard and wing positions immediately. Losing multiple guards means they're exposed on both ends of the floor. And no, Clark can't do it alone. This isn't college. You need 3 capable ball handlers and 2 backup defenders just to survive in this league. They need to invest in fit, not flash. You don't need more big names. You need players who understand their role and execute it. You need glue players, 3 and D wings, energy off the bench, rebounding, and rim protection. And finally, they need to tell the truth. Tell the fans what the plan is. Tell the players what the strategy is. And stick to it. Because if the Indiana Fever don't find clarity now, they're going to lose more than a few free agents. They're going to lose momentum. They're going to lose the locker room. And eventually, they're going to lose the 2 stars they've been so lucky to draft. And if that happens, they'll go down not as a team that almost made it, but as a team that blew it. If you're still watching this and try and process the chaos, hit that like button. Let us know in the comments what you think the Fever should do to save this offseason. And don't forget to subscribe, because whether this team figures it out or falls apart, we'll be here to follow every twist, every trade, and every meltdown as it unfolds. Let's start with something we haven't talked about yet. Fan trust. That trust? It's on thin ice. Indiana's fan base has been loyal through some dark seasons. We're talking nearly a decade of irrelevance, underperformance, and forgettable rosters. They've waited. They've endured. And finally, in the past 2 seasons, with the addition of Boston, then Clark, they were given a reason to believe. But when 4 players get released without clear replacements, trade rumors swirl around one of your best scorers, and you stay silent about your offseason plan, what you're actually telling your fans is, trust us, we know what we're doing. The problem? That trust has not been earned, because this is the same organization that burned through head coaches, mismanaged first-round picks, and kept finishing at the bottom of the standings year after year. It's not enough to have a new GM, a new coach, and 2 rising stars. You need to act like a serious franchise. And right now, the vibe is anything but serious. Fans are asking the same question over and over again. What's the vision? Is this about a youth movement? Because if so, why are your top picks getting inconsistent minutes while role players are cut without replacement? Is this about surrounding Clark with veterans? Because if so, why were the experienced voices like Odyssey Sims and Brian January the first to go? Is this about clearing cap space for a big move? That might make sense if there was any indication the front office actually had that kind of deal lined up. The truth is, there's a communication breakdown. And in professional sports, perception is everything. When fans feel like they're in the dark, doubt creeps in. Speculation replaces facts. Rumors become truth. And before you know it, you've lost the benefit of the doubt, even when you make the right decision. Now, let's zoom out to the league level. The WNBA has never been more competitive. Expansion is coming. Young talent is flooding in. And media coverage is finally giving these teams real oxygen. And that means you don't get time anymore. You don't get years to rebuild slowly while the rest of the league evolves around you. If you have 2 top-tier players, Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, you're on the clock, because those windows don't stay open forever. Look at the Las Vegas Aces. Look at the New York Liberty. These are franchises that build around their stars, fast, aggressively, and with total clarity. They didn't hesitate to move money, make deals, or put role players in positions to succeed. And now they're winning. The Fever? Still hesitating. Still trimming the roster instead of enhancing it. Still treating their generational talent like they've got time to figure it out. They don't. Another angle we haven't covered yet, player development. Let's talk about that. Because if Indiana is truly focused on growing young talent, where's the structure? Where's the consistency? Where's the actual plan for these players to develop into key contributors? You can't just draft rookies and hope for the best. You need an infrastructure that invests in them. Mentors, systems, real playing time, defined roles. And yet, we've seen players like Christy Wallace, Queen Egbo, and now Bree Hall all caught in this limbo zone. Just enough minutes to exist, never enough to grow. They get shuffled in, shuffled out, then eventually released or traded with no real explanation. It's not just about skill, it's about fit. And the Fever have shown a concerning lack of ability to develop and retain young pieces that aren't immediately headline-worthy. It creates a revolving door culture, a cycle of next one-up that undermines continuity and sends a wrong message to every player who isn't already a star. And this leads to one of the most under-discussed problems facing Indiana right now, roster identity. What kind of team are they? Are they a defensive juggernaut? No. The players they just released include 2 of their better on-ball defenders. Are they a run-and-gun offense? That doesn't line up with their half-court struggles last season, or the fact that they haven't surrounded Clark with enough shooters. Are they physical in the post? Boston has that presence. but who's backing her up, who's cleaning the glass when she's not on the floor. This team has no identity. And that's not just a basketball problem. It's a branding problem. Because when a team doesn't know who it is, nobody else can connect to it either. Not fans, not players, not future free agents. And let's talk about those free agents. This labor freeze won't last forever. And when it ends, Indiana better have answers. Because if they're not one of the first teams in the room with compelling offers, smart targets, and a clear plan, they're going to be left behind. The top-tier free agents don't want uncertainty. They don't want to join a team where minutes are unpredictable, rotations are unstable, and the coaching vision is unclear. They want to win. They want to be part of something real. And right now, Indiana doesn't look real. It looks rushed, like a team that's reacting to noise, not leading with vision. Which brings us to another crucial element, locker room buy-in. You can't build a winner without it. When your core players, Clark, Boston, Mitchell, look around and see teammates getting cut without reason, see veteran voices disappear overnight, and see no clear roadmap forward, the natural reaction is to detach. They stop believing the front office has their back. They stop trusting the rotations. And worst of all, they start thinking about their own next move. Do you really think Caitlin Clark came to the WNBA to spend her early career fielding questions about front office dysfunction? Do you think Aaliyah Boston wants to spend the prime of her career playing 35 minutes a night because there's no depth? Do you think Kelsey Mitchell is going to stick around if she's constantly being dangled in trade talks with no loyalty from the franchise she's carried for years? That's what's on the line here. It's not just about the 2025 season. It's about what happens in 2026. 2027. What happens when the rookie deals expire, when the agents start calling, when loyalty isn't enough to keep players locked in? If Indiana doesn't figure this out, now, they're going to be the team that had the pieces and let them walk. All of this, every point made here, boils down to one thing: intentionality. You can't build a contender by accident. You need strategy, urgency, transparency, and above all, alignment between the front office, coaching staff, and players. Right now, Indiana is all over the place, and they're running out of time to pull it together. Because when that free agency window opens, the rest of the league won't wait. If you're fired up about this, let us know. Drop a comment and tell us what you do to fix Indiana's offseason spiral. Hit that like button if you think this team needs to wake up fast. And make sure to subscribe, because the clock is ticking, and when the next move drops, we'll be here to break it down with no fluff, no spin, and no filters.